Hey, what's up guys? Today I'm going to be making a dash script and also explaining exactly how I made it, or explaining all of the lines of code and what it means so that you guys can learn how to do it too. So using what we'll be using to make the dash is align orientation and linear velocity. And so just to show you guys what these things do, before I actually make the dash script, align orientation and linear velocity, both of these things are, what they have in common is that they apply whatever they do to the attachment. So right here you can see that okay, we have an attachment on this part, right? And we have an attachment on this part, and right now you can see that the Z, which is the forwards direction, is this way, right? So yeah, the face on there kind of shows you, and we have an align orientation in the part. And what this align orientation does is it will align the orientation of the attachment, aka the part that the attachment is set to. It will align the orientation to whatever orientation that you want it to have, so your target orientation. You can also have the true attachment mode, which will align the orientation to the second attachment. So if I set this to this attachment here, you can see that it will align the orientation with that other attachment. But if I do one attachment and I set this orientation to 90-degree rotation on the y-axis, which is the same thing as doing this 90 degrees, you see, it will face the same way, so like that. And then you can also change the responsiveness, and responsiveness basically controls how quickly it reaches its goal. So yeah, higher values cause it to align faster. So if I have the responsiveness to 5, it will turn really slowly. And then max torque, basically what is the limit of the force you can use to it, like, reach its goal. So if I have a responsiveness of like 100 but only 1 max torque, it will not be able to move that fast. So yeah, it's best to keep this at like infinite, or like a big number. You can also just not change it, because usually you don't need to go that fast. But a responsiveness of 30 would look like that with like math.huge, which is like the biggest number. You could use a responsiveness of 15. But the reason why we're using this for our dash is because whenever we're dashing, it freezes our rotation. And the way that we want our dash to work is, let me get this property bar back. We basically want our dash to move us in the direction that we're moving. But whenever you do that, sometimes it might not turn and look in the direction that you're dashing, which might look a little silly. So we want to rotate the character to be looking in the direction that they're dashing, and that's what align orientation is going to be used for. And then we have linear velocity, which is quite obvious. You can see here probably already that it just moves a part in a linear velocity right here. Linear velocity in world space. I can press Alt to see more. But yeah, it has a velocity of -2, and you can see that how it kind of interacts with relative to the world. I can also make it relative to attachment 0. and that's because this part's x is this way, so that's why it's moving in that direction when you're making it relative to the attachment 0. But it's easier to make everything relative to the world if you're moving relative to the world. But yeah, that's what we'll do for a dash. We'll use linear velocity. And yeah, that's basically the main two things that we'll use to create our dash. And so let's get started. As you can see in the dash script, I have a dash script in the starter character scripts, which means whenever you actually play the game and the character loads, you will have that script, or whatever scripts are in starter character scripts, it will be placed under the character. And I've already made the animation as well. And right here, you can see that I'm referencing the user input service, which allows us to detect input and run functions with the input. And then we have debris, which destroys the dash instances after a certain amount of seconds. Because obviously, if we don't destroy the dash instances, it will just keep on moving, without stopping. So we have to destroy it. So that will be our dash duration. And so here we have the dash animation and the dash key referenced, as well as all of the character parts, right? And so here we also have the input began event from the user input service, which basically detects whenever any input is found. So yeah, if you press anything on your keyboard, if you even move your mouse, if you click your mouse button, then it will be detected as an input, and then because this is connected to a function, then this function is going to be ran whenever input is detected. So if you just print input detected, whenever input is detected, you can see that bam, a click counts as an input. Any click, left mouse button, right mouse button, W, ASD, moving, jumping, maybe not moving your mouse. I guess that's not detected, but we have the dash key here referenced, which is enum.keycode.q for us. So what we can do is if input.keycode, we're checking if the keycode pressed is equal to the dash key. So if it is, if you did press Q, so this is for check if Q was pressed. If Q was pressed, then what you want to do is check if on cooldown. And basically how you would do this is if debounce is equal to false, or yeah, if cooldown is equal to false, then so debounce is going to be your variable because it's either true or false, right? If it's false, then it will be off cooldown, and you basically just want to set it to true right after, because this allows it to stop allowing you to dash. Because obviously if the debounce is true, then this if statement will evaluate to false, which will not run the lines of code inside of it. So yeah, and then at the end of your dash, since after this you want to basically initiate dash, after that your dash, you have a task.wait and then cd, which is my cooldown, which is 1 second. After a 1 second wait, then the debounce will be equal to false again, which allows you to dash once more. And so you basically, when you're making something, you want to just go step by step. So yeah, just think about it in your head, and then what you need to do, what you need to write to do it. So just think step by step. That's how you break down larger systems, and that's how you code basically. And so initiating the dash, we want to basically just make the align orientation and linear velocity. So let's start with the linear velocity. Actually, let's start with playing the animation. So play animation. This will be easy. It will be one line. Let's see if AI makes it right. Okay, yeah, it does. So oh no, it doesn't. So quick fix here. Humanoid has a animator now, so you want to load animations onto your humanoid.animator. Yeah, so we're loading the dash animation and then we're playing it. You could also just not set it as a variable, the animation track I mean, and just play this right on this line, because you're not doing anything with the animation afterwards. So all you have to do is just play it. You can play it on the same line. You don't have to make a variable for the animation track. And what I mean is, whenever you load an animation like this method, it returns the animation track. We don't really need to do anything but to play it, so this will suffice. We just need one line to play the animation, and then after that, let's align orientation of character. And basically, whenever you're dealing with like physical movement of the player, you want to think about the humanoid root part, because the humanoid root part is basically it's the root of the character. So whenever you want to move the player, you want to move the humanoid root part. And so let's just make the align orientation instance. Let's just do AO. New align orientation. We can set the parent of it to the humanoid root part, and then really quickly, if I play, you'll see that my character, or my humanoid root part, inside of the character, it will have this attachment called root attachment. And this is gonna be useful for us, because we don't have to make a new attachment just to have an attachment to apply the force to. We already have one here in the humanoid root part called root attachment, so we can use that to apply the force onto and to apply the rotation to. So we can do align orientation dot attachment 0 is equal to humanoid root part dot root attachment, and then we want the mode to be one attachment. As you guys saw here, the mode can be either one or true attachment. We don't want to set the orientation of the attachment to another attachment, because we have a C frame to set it to, which is basically just a orientation on its own. So mode enum dot align orientation alignment mode dot one attachment. And if you're stuck on what value it is, you can just pull up the description here, the tab, and then you can see right here it says enum dot orientation alignment mode. So that's the value that you have to make it equal to. So that's going to be useful. If you don't know, it's right there. So that's how you know it's an orientation alignment mode. After that, you can see that we want to turn the max torque up. And like I said, you can make it equal to math.huge, which returns a value larger than or equal to any other numerical value. Basically, a huge number. And then we want to set the responsiveness to a number like 15. So this is how fast it turns, right? But honestly, things like this, you just have to test, trial and error, because you don't know if you'll be satisfied with the first number that you put in there. So just test things out and see what you like. And then I actually skipped a step. We want to get the direction of the dash first. And that is really easy. So that will actually go before playing the animation. No, actually, it can go after playing the animation. So right here, get dash direction. So this is really simple. If I look at the humanoid class here, or the humanoid instance, you can see that it has a bunch of properties like health and class name, walk 2 points. But what we'll be using is the move direction, which describes the direction that the humanoid is walking in, which is perfect for us because we can just do local direction is equal to that. So that will give us the direction of the dash. If you want me to go into more detail on what move direction actually is or what it looks like, I can do that. Just drop like a comment, and I'll write it. I'll reply to it. That goes for anything, obviously. But once we have the direction, that's what we can set the the C-frame to. And the C-frame of the line orientation is going to be the orientation, the C-frame orientation with which the constraint will attempt to match the orientation of. So yeah, it's like what I did here, what you guys saw at the start of the video. And we're basically going to set the C-frame to a new C-frame. And if you whenever you have a method like this and you see these arrows here, it means that depending on how many arguments you give it, or what arguments you give it, it does like a new thing. So this first one, new with no arguments, returns a blank identity C-frame. So C-frame with all 0 values. In this second one, you can see that you can put in a position, which is a vector 3, which returns a C-frame with no rotation and the position of the provided vector 3. And then you can see here, on the third one, it returns a C-frame with the position of the first vector 3 and an orientation pointed toward the second, which basically means that it's going to be positioned at the first vector 3 and it will be looking at the second vector 3. And there's also these other ones, but what we will be using is the third one. The third constructor is what it's called. And we're basically going to have a position of the origin of the world, 0, 0, 0. And then the second vector 3 will be the direction. Reason being is the direction is basically just a vector 3 from the origin. And so this just gets us the C-frame direction. So the align orientation is trying to align the attachment at attachment 0. It's trying to align the orientation to this C-frame, which has the orientation pointed toward the second. If that makes sense, then that's good. If it didn't, I guess just ask in the comments, because I'm trying to make sure like all of you guys understand. But yeah, if we just do this and then we use debris and the add item method to destroy the align orientation after, let's say, 0.5 seconds, you can see that usually if I am facing this way and then I quickly press S, it kind of just slowly moves like backwards, right? It doesn't like fully move face the like backwards, but if I like press S and then I press the dash, it will align itself. Okay, I don't know what that was, but it will align itself with the direction that it was moving towards, which you can see it does perfectly right there. So I'm not holding it at all. If I was, then it would look like that. The only thing moving me backwards is the align orientation. So that's what it looks like. So now that we have that part done, we actually have to make the dash, right? So move character, or add velocity to character. So yeah, we will be using a linear velocity. Let's create the linear velocity here and set the parent to the humanoid root part. And then if you guys remembered, it works the same way as the align orientation, as it applies it to the attachment 0. So let's just set the attachment 0 to the humanoid root part dot root attachment. And also we want the velocity constraint mode to be vector, but I think it already does that automatically. Yeah. So okay, we won't really have to do much then. All we have to do is set the, is there a force limit? Max force. Set the max force to math.huge just to stay consistent. And then we want to set the velocity, vector velocity. We will set the vector velocity to the direction times 50 or something. That's also something you have to test. Also, I did not add a, I did not destroy the vector velocity, so it's just going to move in that direction forever. But yeah, it looks good. Let's just destroy it real quick. Linear velocity 0.5. So now it does this. And my dash animation is kind of whack. Don't mind that. And you can see that that's what my dash ends up looking like. So yeah, I think it would look better if it was more responsive. The rotation, I mean. Okay. It just looks bad, like the dash animation. That's my bad. I'm not an animator, but you can see that we do have a dash here, a working dash with a cooldown. If I spam it, oh yeah, there's the issue of your move direction. If you're not moving and you dash, it kind of just like bugs out, cause your velocity is 0, your rotation, there's no rotation. So let's just make it so that if direction magnitude is less than 0.1. So yeah, if you're moving in any direction, if you're moving at all, then your move direction should have a magnitude of 1. But if it doesn't, then it doesn't work. It kind of bugs out. So we want to set it to front facing, so that it's like always, it's forwards if you're not moving, right? So the way you would get that is cframe dot, actually we can just do human root part dot cframe, and then if we quickly look at this, there's a thing called look vector. Yeah, so this is the forward direction. This is the forward direction of the C-frame. So if we get the C-frame dot look vector, and then we get again if you have a vector 3, which is what the look vector is, there is something called a the unit property, and unit is basically a normalized copy of a vector 3 that has the same direction but a magnitude of 1. So the length is 1, which is basically what we want it to have. So we're getting the unit or normalized copy of the look vector, and we're setting the direction equal to that if you're not moving in any direction. So if you're standstill, you just go forwards if you're not moving at all. Otherwise it will dash in that direction. So that's how you make a dash. You can make it faster by destroying it faster and adding a greater force, and obviously greater responsiveness. So if we do that, it will look more like a dash. Or this is actually probably too fast for a dash, unless you're like a superhero or something, I don't know. But yeah, that's how you make a dash, guys. Any other questions? I hope you guys will put them in the comments so that I can help you guys with them. But that's basically how you make a simple dash using align orientation and linear velocity. Yeah, I hope you guys learned a lot from that. Peace out, guys.